A junior employee threw a tantrum and screamed, "I shouldn't have to take orders from you. I deserve to be manager." When I showed him his performance report, he scoffed. "This means nothing." The next day, his desk was empty, and a new job posting went up. This happened last year, and to this day, I still replay parts of it in my head because it didn't feel real at the time. But it was real, and it was messy. I'm a team lead at a digital marketing company in Chicago. I've been with this place for 5 years. It's a fast-paced, high-pressure environment, but I like the work. I'm not a manager by title, but I'm in charge of a team of 5. I do hiring input, performance reviews, lead meetings, and train new hires. We had a new junior join last year. Let's call him Kyle, not his real name. Kyle came in loud. He was 24, just graduated from a top 20 school, his words, and showed up on day 1 with expensive shoes and an attitude. "I don't care about clothes or age. What I care about is if you can do the work, meet deadlines, and not make other people's jobs harder." From the beginning, Kyle gave off "I'm better than this" energy. He sighed through onboarding, ignored training documents, and kept mentioning how he had big ideas to improve our workflow, even though he had no clue how our systems work yet. At first, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I figured he was just trying to impress people. Then things got worse. Every time I gave him feedback, he brushed it off. I told him multiple times to double-check the data he was pulling before sharing it with clients. He didn't. In one case, he sent out a report that was completely wrong. He used last year's numbers and made projections based on outdated trends. The client called us out. I had to jump on the call and fix it. When I talked to Kyle after, he just said, "It's not a big deal, no one died." That became a pattern. Mess up, blame someone else, downplay it. He made jokes in serious meetings. He'd talk over people. He'd correct senior team members with stuff he clearly Googled 5 minutes before the call. If he sent one good email or got a single, "looks good," from a client, he'd talk about it all day. Once, he added a note at the end of a client pitch deck saying, "Special thanks to Kyle R. for the creative direction." He wasn't even on the creative team. He'd forward compliments from others to our VP and CC me with subject lines like, "Great work recognition." No context. Just fishing. We were all trying to meet insane deadlines, but Kyle always had time to self-promote. This was for one of our biggest clients. If we lost them, we'd lose a lot of revenue. My team was chosen to build the campaign pitch deck. I assigned Kyle a smaller section, analytics, because I didn't trust him with the strategy or creative yet. I gave him clear instructions: research the target audience trends over the past 6 months and pull real engagement data from our internal dashboards. Simple. It's basic level stuff. But it needed accuracy. The deadline was tight. Everyone stayed late that week, except Kyle. Every night at 5:01, he was gone. "Time management is important," he said once while packing up early. He dropped the analytics section in the shared deck the morning of the review call. I looked at it and felt my heart drop. It was filled with generic buzzwords, fake metrics, and stock chart images from Google. I reverse searched one and it came from a blog post from 2018. I called him over. I wasn't rude. I wasn't angry. I just said, "Hey, I need to go over your section. The data's not correct, and it looks like these charts weren't pulled from our systems." He rolled his eyes. "It's just a draft. Don't be so serious." I told him we were presenting to the VP in 3 hours. This wasn't a draft. This was the final review. I pointed at the screen and said, "You were supposed to pull real numbers from our database. These are from Google." That's when he lost it. He stood up. Loudly. "I shouldn't have to take orders from you. I deserve to be manager. I have a degree in strategy." Everyone within earshot froze. We were in an open office. People turned their heads. Someone in HR 2 rows down popped up. I stayed quiet for a second. Then I calmly slid the performance report across the table. "This is your quarterly review. We were going to go over this later, but I think we should now." He picked it up, skimmed the first page, and laughed. "This means nothing. These are your opinions, not facts. And I don't care." He dropped it on the desk and walked away. I didn't say anything that day. I let him stew. He didn't come back to the desk for hours. Just disappeared into one of the phone booths, probably texting friends about how oppressed he was by corporate drones. That night, I stayed late and finished his section myself. When the VP reviewed the deck, she complimented the data section. I didn't say I did it. The next morning, I got in early and typed up everything that happened. Not just the outbursts, but a full record: missed deadlines, behavior patterns, poor performance, screenshots of unprofessional messages, peer feedback I had already collected for review season. I had enough to paint a clear picture. No exaggeration. Just facts. I submitted it to HR, CCING, my direct manager. Then I requested a meeting with leadership to propose a restructure to the junior role. After I filed everything with HR and proposed the role restructure, I thought it would be a few quiet days of waiting. It wasn't. That same afternoon, I got pulled into a quick sync with my manager and the HR rep. I thought it would be about Kyle. It wasn't. Not at first. They looked serious. "There's been a complaint filed against you," HR said. I blinked. What? Apparently, Kyle had beaten me to the punch. He had gone to HR before I sent in the performance report. He told them I was creating a hostile work environment, that I was micromanaging him, and that I had sabotaged his creative input by redoing his analytics slides without informing him. He also said I was intimidated by his education and confidence. I had to sit there and pretend like that wasn't the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. I gave HR my file. I walked them through the documentation, step by step. I expected that to be the end of it. But something didn't feel right. HR didn't close the case. They said they needed to gather perspectives from both sides. I asked how long that would take. A few days. Possibly weeks. Weeks? For a junior-level tantrum? My manager looked uncomfortable. After the meeting, she pulled me aside and whispered, "Look, I probably shouldn't say this, but Kyle's dad knows one of the partners." And there it was. I suddenly understood everything. The attitude. The entitlement. The reason HR wasn't jumping into action. He wasn't just some arrogant junior. He was connected. Kyle came in the next day acting like he had just won an award. He walked past my desk without looking at me. He whistled. Literally whistled. He even told someone loudly near the coffee machine, "When you speak up, they get scared. It's crazy how fast they fold when they think you'll call legal." It wasn't just annoying, it was dangerous. He started spreading a rumor that I was on the verge of being demoted. He even claimed he was being considered for a new strategy lead position. I thought he was bluffing. But then a few junior staff actually asked me, "Hey, is Kyle really moving up?" He had planted the idea so well, people were believing it. I kept my cool. Barely. This is where I decided to stop playing fair. Not dirty, but smart. I started digging. Not into his personal life. Into his work trail. I knew he reused slides. I knew he borrowed data. I started pulling every past file Kyle had submitted since he joined. It was worse than I thought. In one campaign report, he had taken results from a completely different client and just changed the logo. In another, he pulled social media stats from a YouTube tutorial example and claimed it as our Facebook metrics. I saved everything. I also talked to another team lead, quiet guy named Daniel, who oversaw a different client account. He had offboarded Kyle after just 1 week on his project months ago. He didn't know how to use Google Sheets, Daniel said. "I thought he was your problem now." I asked him to forward me the notes he sent to his manager at the time. He did. It was a brutal performance log, never formally submitted to HR, but very, very detailed. I combined everything into a single drive folder. I shared it with my manager. She looked at it and said, Oh, okay. This is a lot." The following Monday, a new invite popped up on my calendar. Discussion, internal team alignment, confidential. Attendees, me, Kyle, HR, my manager, and a senior partner. Not a partner. The partner. One of the founding execs of the company. Also, apparently, the one who knew Kyle's dad. This was turning into something way bigger than I thought. Kyle was already in the meeting room when I walked in. He was wearing a new blazer and tapping on his phone. He didn't look worried. He looked smug. When everyone sat down, HR started with, "We want to clear the air and move forward as a team." Kyle spoke first. "Thank you. I just want a workplace where I'm respected. I've worked extremely hard, and I've felt constantly targeted." The partner nodded like he was listening carefully. Then it was my turn. I took out a printed report. "This is a summary of Kyle's work since he joined. Each page links to original files. You'll notice most of the reports are either copied, falsified, or reused from unrelated campaigns." HR glanced at it. I looked at the partner. "Also, I'd like to add that the analytics Kyle submitted to a Fortune 500 client were not just incorrect. They were taken from a YouTube marketing tutorial posted 3 years ago. I've included the source." There was a full minute of silence. Then the partner said, "We'll take time to review. But Kyle? His face changed. For the first time since this started, he looked scared. After that tense meeting, things went quiet for a few days. Too quiet. Kyle stopped talking to anyone. No more cocky comments. No more whistling. Just headphones on, eyes on screen. But not typing much. Something felt off. Then on Thursday afternoon, a new email went out company-wide. All team leads, please note, your client review decks must now be submitted to the strategy division before final presentations. Huh! That had never been a rule before. It was always the team lead's responsibility to own the full deck. It smelled like red tape, and it reeked of Kyle. That same day, I saw him stepping into a side room with Darren, one of the new strategy division analysts. Darren was young sharp, but didn't know the full story. I saw Kyle laughing with him, showing him something on his phone. A few hours later, Darren sent me a Slack message. Hey, saw your deck for the Cartonix account. Just a heads up, Kyle already submitted his own version for strategy approval. Wait. What? That campaign was under my team. Kyle wasn't even assigned to it anymore. I asked Darren to forward it to me. He hesitated but eventually did. It was my deck. But edited. My name removed. My team's creative stripped. Analytics tweaked. Kyle had slapped his name on it and sent it in. I stared at the file, trying not to lose it. This wasn't just stepping on toes. This was attempted theft. I talked to my manager right away. She was just as stunned. He submitted your work? Yes. Removed our team's credits. Changed the title page. Pretending it's his. He's trying to make a power grab. Now we had two separate cases, falsified data and intellectual theft. My manager said, let me handle this part. While she went to talk to legal and senior leadership, I focused on something else, the junior staff. I had a gut feeling Kyle wasn't just bothering me. So I started asking around quietly. Two of the interns, both women, said Kyle had been overly familiar with them. Comments about their appearance, hovering behind them at their desks, making them uncomfortable in group chats. Neither had filed anything officially, they didn't want drama. But now, I had something HR couldn't ignore. With their permission, I added their messages to a new report, documented exactly, with timestamps. Kyle wasn't just lazy. He wasn't just arrogant. He was dangerous. Here's where things got weirder. That night, I got a message from a blocked number. Text only. He's been watching your screen when you leave. Be careful with what you leave open. At first, I thought it was a prank. Then I remembered I'd walked away from my desk multiple times that week with tabs still open, our client dashboards, team notes, even HR messages I had been drafting. And Kyle sat 2 rows behind me. Easy view of my monitor. Suddenly it all clicked. He was gathering just enough to fake authority, then running it through the back door using his strategy division connections. He wasn't just trying to survive. He was trying to replace me. The next day, I found something strange in my company email. A shared folder titled KR Internal Portfolio Confidential. No message. No sender info. Just sitting in my drive. I opened it. Inside were over a dozen folders, presentations, spreadsheets, proposal documents, all under Kyle's name. But I recognized every single one. They weren't his. They were ours. Some from my team. Some from other departments. Even a few from an old project we collaborated on with an outside vendor. Vendor files Kyle shouldn't even have access to. Everything was relabeled. Dates changed. Credits deleted. He was building a fake portfolio to pitch himself for promotions. Or possibly for jobs outside the company. Whoever shared it with me, maybe Darren, maybe the anonymous texter, wanted me to see the full picture. I packaged everything into one final report. Data falsification, performance issues, workplace misconduct, attempted campaign theft, misuse of confidential materials, harassment claims, possible NDA violations from vendor files. I sent it to HR. I copied my manager. I CC'd legal. And then I added one more name to the thread, the senior partner. The one who had been defending Kyle behind the scenes. I added a single line at the bottom. If this is the standard of leadership we are promoting, I would like to understand the company's new direction. The company scheduled a mandatory meeting the next day for all team leads, strategy division staff, and HR. Nobody knew the exact agenda. The calendar title was vague. Internal operations and conduct sync mandatory. People were whispering. Slack messages flew fast. I walked in early and saw Kyle already seated at the far end of the long glass conference table. He looked confident, too confident. A small smirk, arms crossed, dressed like he was ready for a promotion, not an investigation. HR came in next. Then legal. Then the senior partner, the one who had supposedly been backing Kyle. And finally, my manager walked in, eyes locked dead ahead. Serious. No jokes. No coffee cups. This wasn't just a meeting. This was judgment. Let's begin, the HR director said. She stood and pulled up a slide titled, Documented Misconduct Review, Internal Case, 43A. Kyle's face changed instantly. His smirk dropped like someone cut a string. Wait, what? He asked. HR didn't answer. She launched into a timeline. A full breakdown, missed deadlines, falsified reports, attempts to claim others' work, complaints from coworkers, the performance reviews, the vendor documents, the internal folder of stolen files. Every piece. One by one. There was no yelling. Just cold, factual evidence. Kyle kept shaking his head. This isn't fair. None of this is proven. This is a setup. That's when legal chimed in. You accessed files beyond your clearance level. And you shared those files externally. That's a breach. Kyle stood up. I didn't share anything. Someone must have. This is all twisted. You're believing them instead of me? His voice cracked. The senior partner finally spoke. Kyle. Sit down. Kyle turned toward him. You said you had my back. You said I had potential? You said you lied? The partner interrupted. To me. To the team. I vouched for you, and you embarrassed me. There it was. The moment Kyle realized the shield was gone. His lips moved but no sound came out. Then, quietly, he said, I just wanted to prove I could lead. And then louder, almost shouting again. They never gave me a chance. The room went silent. Until Darren, the strategy analyst, spoke. You didn't want a chance. You wanted a shortcut. And you stepped on everyone to try and get it. Kyle stormed out. He didn't wait for HR to finish. He didn't look at anyone. He brushed past two junior staff who were waiting outside the meeting room, and the door slammed shut behind him. Everyone just sat there for a few seconds. Staring. Processing. The HR director finally said, We'll be notifying the team of his departure within the hour. No one clapped. No one celebrated. It didn't feel like a win. It felt like pulling a thorn out of a wound that still hurt. Over the next week, things felt awkward. People kept their heads down. HR made a formal statement about values, respect, and transparency. My inbox got quiet. The interns who had been afraid to speak out. They thanked me privately. One even said she had been planning to quit if nothing changed. Darren stopped by my desk. Thanks for doing something. I didn't know who to talk to. My manager took me to lunch and just said, You did everything right. I'm sorry it took so long for everyone to see it. Even the senior partner shook my hand in passing a few days later. No words, just a nod. But the weight didn't lift overnight. A week later, I was asked to help review applicants for the new open position, the one that used to be Kyle's. One of the resumes came in from someone fresh out of college. Solid grades. No work experience. But something about the cover letter stood out. I want to learn, not lead. Not yet. I want to be useful, not loud. It hit me harder than I expected. I remembered what Kyle said in the final meeting. They never gave me a chance. And maybe that's what he believed. But belief doesn't erase behavior. Actions do. Kyle wasn't crushed by the company. He was crushed by his own shortcuts. The whole thing shook me. I used to think being professional meant keeping your head down and letting bad people crash themselves into walls. But that doesn't work when someone tries to drag the whole team down with them. You have to speak. You have to act. I don't hate Kyle. I hate what he did to people who showed him patience. Who gave him chances. Who were just trying to do their jobs. He could have been good. But he wanted power before he earned respect. And in the end, he got neither.